Chapter 4, verse 65 of the Quran says, "But by your Lord they will not believe until they make you judge concerning that over which they dispute among themselves, and then find within themselves no discomfort from what you have judged, and submit fully willing submission." So here it's saying, of course, the commentators have to insert Muhammad because he is not actually in the text. But that being left aside, they have to submit to all of his teachings and rulings. And where do you find it? You do not find Muhammad's teachings and rulings within the Quran. You have to go to the hadith, which is the collection of his saying and teaching. So with that said, we're going to examine several hadiths so you can see what exactly is in the Muslim literature, and you be sure to share this with your Muslim friends and get their take on this as well. So we can see in Sunan Ibn Majah 1944, the verse of stoning and breastfeeding an adult 10 times was revealed, and the paper was with me under my pillow. When the Messenger of Allah died, we were preoccupied with his death, and a tame sheep came in and ate it. So this is, of course, from Muhammad's favorite plaything, the 9-year-old Aisha, his child bride. And it's saying here, of course, that the verse of stoning and breastfeeding an adult male was lost because a sheep came in and ate it. So this is very disturbing because it's supposed to relieve sexual tension between a man and a woman. I'm not sure how exactly that's supposed to work. If you're supposed to put your mouth on her breast, I'm not sure how that's actually supposed to relieve the sexual tension, but the great Muhammad apparently knows how that works. We can see in Sahih Bukhari 5686, I'm going to mention this as well before we get too far into this, the Sahih narrations are the authentic ones, and the Hasan are the good narrations, so that's primarily what we're going to use. So we can see it says, the climate of Medina did not suit some people, so the Prophet ordered them to follow his shepherd, that is his camels, and drink the milk and urine as medicine. So they followed the shepherd, that is the camels, and drank their milk and urine until their bodies became healthy. Then they killed the shepherd and drove away the camels. When the news reached the Prophet, he sent some people in their pursuit. When they were brought, he cut their hands and feet, and eyes were banded with heated pieces of iron. But did you notice it said that they have to drink camel urine? It is not sanitary to drink urine of an animal because it's releasing toxins within its body, and yet Muhammad's saying it's safe to drink. This is just bizarre knowledge that he's spewing, and yet I've seen videos of Muslims actually doing this, and it's quite disturbing. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 5725, it says, the Prophet said, fever is from the heat of hell, so abate fever with water. So he tried to give a supernatural understanding for why, of course, we have, disease and sickness, and he's saying, according to this hadith, that the fever is from hell, and to basically have fluids. But the point is, this is quite honestly ridiculous. He's trying to give a supernatural understanding to sickness, which is obviously not the case, but apparently this 7th century caravan robber would not know that. We can also look at Sunan Abu Dawud 67. It says, I heard that the people asked the Prophet of Allah, water is brought for you from the well of Buddha. It is a well in which dead dogs, menstrual cloths, and excrement of people are thrown. The Messenger of Allah replied, verily, water is pure and is not defiled by anything. Did you notice what was thrown in this well? He said it was dead dogs, menstrual clothes, and excrement. And yet Muhammad says that there's nothing that can make water unclean or defiled. So if that's the case, then why in the world do we have dirty water around the world, Muhammad, if nothing can defile the water? This is just ludicrous, and this is why people who follow your teachings are not the healthiest people, because of your ridiculous knowledge that you're spewing, and this is just very dangerous and unsanitary. We can also see in Sahih Muslim 21:23a, it says Aisha reported that a girl of the Ashnar who had fallen ill and had lost the hair was married. Her relatives, thought of adding false hair to her head, so they asked Allah's Messenger about it. Whereupon he cursed the woman who adds false hair and the woman who asks for it. So here, of course, Muhammad's saying that you're not allowed to use a wig or things of that nature because he put a curse on you, which is absolutely astonishing that Muhammad would not allow, for example, in the modern day, would allow wigs for cancer patients or things of that nature, that Muhammad would place a curse on individuals who would do that. And yet Muhammad is this great champion of the people. I would say not. We can also look at Sahih Bukhari 33:20. It says, narrated Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, if a housefly falls in the drink of anyone of you, he should dip it in the drink and take it out, for one of its wings has disease and the other one has the cure for the disease. This is just, once again, unsanitary because of the amount of diseases that a fly could very well carry. And yet Muhammad thinks if the wings carry the cure and the disease, which goes to show that Muhammad's medical knowledge is laughable. But yet they still think he's the greatest example for mankind, according to the Quran in chapter 33, verse 21, according to their God. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 56:34, narrated Abu Salim, the wife of the Prophet, Allah's Messenger, said, he who drinks in silver utensils is only filling his abdomen with hellfire. So what he's saying is, if you use silver, that you are committing a sin. So all the silver utensils you have in your drawers, according to Muhammad, that is sinful and you should toss them away. No, of course don't do that, because Muhammad has no idea what he's actually talking about, because he's not actually getting his revelations from God. And if you want to look at his first revelation, you can look at Sahih Bukhari 3, where this supposed angel, which is actually just a demon, squeezes him and scares him to death, that he has to go and tell his wife to cover him because he's so frightened with his experience. Once again, that reference is Sahih Bukhari number 3 is his first revelation in the cave of Hira, if you want to go and look at it. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 35:84, it says, the narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, the Prophet used to stand by a tree or a date palm on Friday. Then the Asnar woman or man said, O Allah's Messenger, shall we make a pulpit for you? He replied, if you wish. So they made a pulpit for him, and when it was Friday, he proceeded towards the pulpit for delivering the sermon. The date palm cried like a child. The Prophet descended the pulpit and embraced it while it was continued moaning like a child. Being quieted, the Prophet said, it was crying for missing what it used to hear of religious knowledge given nearer to it. So here Muhammad comforts a crying tree, and this is just, it's not a logical experience with a tree crying because it's missing out on the profound wisdom that the Prophet of Islam is spewing from his pulpit. But once again, nobody's saying that Muhammad actually did receive these revelations, because they don't actually line up with regards to their coherence. We can also see in Sahih Muslim 617b, says, Abu Hurairah reported, the Messenger of Allah said, when it is hot, make delay in the noon prayer till it cools down, for the intensity of the beat is from the exhalation of hell. And he also mentioned that hellfire complained to the Lord about its congested atmosphere, so it was permitted to take 2 breaths during the whole year, 1 exhalation during the winter and 1 exhalation during the summer. So here we have hell complaining to Allah, and it's allowed to breathe out twice a year during the winter and the summer. And yet, so basically, it seems that Muhammad is giving an explanation for every possible thing he can think of, but yet they don't actually make any sense even within the spiritual realm, this makes no sense with regards to why this would happen and why hell could be complaining to God. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 62:23, it says, narrated Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, Allah likens sneezing and dislikes yawning, so if someone sneezes and then praises Allah, then it is obligatory on every Muslim who heard him to say, may Allah be merciful to you. But as regards yawning, it is from Satan, so one must try one's best to stop it. For one, he's saying, when yawning, Satan will laugh at him. So once again, Muhammad is giving supernatural, he's basically saying this is what God likes, this is what God does not like. And this is just basic things that happen within, human experience. You sneeze and you yawn. And Muhammad, once again, is trying to give a supernatural explanation for what God likes and does not like. And, yawning and sneezing are not sinful, so I'm not sure why exactly Muhammad would even be trying to cover this with regards to the instruction to his ummah. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 32:95, it says, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, if any one of you rouses himself from sleep and performs the ablution, which is the washing, he should wash his nose by putting water in it and then blowing it out thrice, because Satan has stayed in the upper part of his nose all night. So there's a couple things here. It's saying that, of course, that Satan has stayed in the nose of the Muslim, and that's why he should do his ritual washings. But it also points out to another aspect, that if multiple Muslims get up during the night, that they all have to do this. And this also means that in Islam, whether Muslims want to acknowledge this or not, they have made Satan omnipresent, which means they have given one of God's attributes to Satan, the deceiver and devil. We can see in Sahih Muslim 22:59, it says, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri reported, we were going with Allah's messenger. As we reached the place known as Algier, there met us a poet who had been reciting poetry. Thereupon Allah's messenger said, catch the Satan or detain the Satan, for filling the belly of a man with pus is better than stuffing his brain with poetry. So here we can see that Muhammad does not like poetry, and this is actually par for the course for Muhammad, because even whenever the poets in his biography would have poetry against him, he would hire individuals to assassinate, or if you want me to use a different terminology, he would have people murder those people who are making fun of him, and that is not a very kind or loving thing to do, which is to assassinate people whom you dislike. That is not a good thing, and that should definitely be condemned. We can also see in Sahih Bukhari 62:57, it says, narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's messenger said, when the Jews greet you, they usually say, Assalamu alaikum, death to you. So you should say in reply to them, Walam alaikum, and to you. So, but here's the thing: the Muslims seem to have a hatred with regards to the Jews because of how their God and their prophet view the Jews. But the point is that the traditional Jewish greeting is Shalom Aleichem, which is peace be upon you. So that the Jews are not out to get the Muslims. They're not out to crush the Muslims. They're not there to do that. But yet, once again, Muhammad's anti-Semitism and Allah's hatred for the Jews just knows no bounds, and that's why that the Quran and the hadith literature are full of hatred for the Jews. We can see now in Sunan Abu Majah 32:69. This is once again a Sahih narration, which means it's authentic. It says, it's narrated by Ibn Abbas, it's one of Muhammad's companions. It says, when one of you eats food, let him not wipe his hand until he has licked it or had someone else lick it. So this is very unsanitary, and this, once again, it promotes disease and just gross conduct. And yet Muhammad's saying, whenever you get done eating, don't wipe your fingers, but have somebody else, stick your finger in their mouth and let them lick your fingers for you. But once again, this promotes unsanitary conditions and the spread of diseases. Once again, this shows that Muhammad has no idea what he's talking about in primarily all the aspects that he actually tries to address, but especially within the medical knowledge that he actually does not possess, that he's just making up on the spot to make himself sound more intelligent than he actually is. We can look at Sahih Bukhari 59:43. It says, narrated Ibn Masud, Allah has cursed the women who practice tattooing or get it done for themselves, and those who remove hair from their faces, and those who create spaces between their teeth artificially to look beautiful. Such ladies as change the features created by Allah, why then shall not curse those whom Allah's messenger has cursed and who are cursed in Allah's book too? So here he's saying once again that there's a curse on individuals who tattoo artists or individuals who get tattoos, or anybody who it seems like they would be shaving their face, or any number of things with regards to making oneself look more beautiful, more appealing. And the hadith here is saying that there is a curse on those individuals. So once again, Muhammad is trying to cover every aspect of life for his ummah, and ultimately he has given them a standard in which they ultimately cannot live up to, because he himself broke the standard multiple times. You can see now in Sahih Bukhari 33:05, it says, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, a group of Israelites were lost. Nobody knows what they did, but I do not see them except that they were cursed and changed into rats. For if you put milk of a she-camel in front of a rat, it will not drink it. But if the milk of the sheep is put in front of it, it will drink it. I told this to Kitab, who asked me, did you hear it from the Prophet? I said, yes. Kitab asked me the same question several times. I said to Kitab, do I read the Torah? I tell you this from the Prophet. So once again, it's showing the racism and the disdain for the Jews that Muhammad has, that the Jews would be turned into rats. Once again, this highlights the hatred that Muhammad has for the Jewish people. Sahih Bukhari 693, it says, narrated Anas, the Prophet said, listen and obey your chief, even if an Ethiopian whose head is like a raisin were made your chief. So once again, we can see here the blatant racism of the Prophet of Islam. And yet, once again, he's touted as this amazing example to the nations. Whatever you need Muhammad to be, whether he's a champion of feminine rights, whether he's a, whatever it is, Muhammad is the best man you could possibly need with regards to, scholars and apologists presenting him as basically a jack of all trades. And once again, we can just see here that that's a blatant lie because of his obvious racism and disdain for people who are different than him. Sahih Bukhari 1144, narrated Abdullah, a person was mentioned before the Prophet, and he was told that he had to keep on sleeping till morning and had not got up for the prayer. The Prophet said Satan urinated in his ear. So the reason, according to Muhammad, that this man did not get up for the prayers is because Satan peed in his ear. So once again, this once again points to the fact that if multiple people did not get up for the morning prayer and they missed it, then ultimately they are making Satan omnipresent, because that has to happen to multiple people, during the day if they miss the prayer. So once again, that Islam has inadvertently made Satan their god. We look at Sahih Muslim 389I. It says, Abu Hurairah reported, the Messenger of Allah said, the devil takes to his heels, breaking wind when the prayer begins, and the rest is the same, but with this addition, the devil makes him think of pleasant things or things productive of enjoyment, and of those things wished for, and reminds him of such needs which he had forgotten. So it's saying here, whenever the prayer begins, that Satan farts, so he doesn't have to hear the prayer, and then he interrupts it. And so this is just, once again, silly, and ultimately he's just making fun of Satan. And it's really quite laughable that Muslims would actually hold to this aspect of this hadith, because it ultimately makes no sense. There's no reason for Satan to interrupt the prayer in such a way. He could obviously do something of more substantial damage if he desired to do so. Of course, because he is powerful, but he once again is on the providence of God. So once again, there is no need for Satan here to break wind, to interrupt the prayer. He could do something of more substantial value, but here once again, Muhammad actually doesn't know what he's talking about, because he has to give a comical answer to why Satan has to break wind during the prayer. Sahih Muslim 2026, Abu Hurairah reported the messenger as saying, "None of you should drink while standing, and if anyone forgets, he must vomit." So, you can't drink water, you can't drink soda while standing, because, if you do, you must vomit it out, which is ultimately a waste of, the fluids. And during this time, in the hot Arabian area, you couldn't waste water like that. Yet Muhammad said, if you're standing up, it doesn't count, because you have to vomit it out and waste it. So once again, we can see that Muhammad is not very careful with the resources around him, and he ultimately does not care about the safety of his people, who would be willing to waste valuable water in the process of their hot Arabian climate. This one, I like this one a lot. It's hilarious. It says, narrated, it's in Sunan Abu Dawud 203. It's narrated Ali ibn al-Tuba. It says, the Messenger of Allah said, "The eyes are the leather strap of the anus, so one who sleeps should perform ablution." So it's saying that, when your eyes are shut, that your anus is covered, and when your eyes are open, that the leather strap is, it says the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, which is just a very comical and funny aspect with regards to how Muhammad thought the human body worked, which we know that is actually not the case. But this is 20 or 21 different things that you can go and ask your Muslim friends about. Ask them to explain these things and see what they say. I guarantee you they'll take them to their scholars, or they'll tell you that Allah knows best, because they have no clue what these actually mean or how they must actually apply them, because Muhammad's teachings do not actually make a lick of sense, and they are ultimately harmful to the world at large.